I remember having this conversation with a friend and he's like, I do want to date somebody that I'm attracted to. Like, I like their looks. That's just how I feel. I'm like, that's okay.
That's okay.
And no one should judge you about that. If anything, I agree. You should be attracted to your partner, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just the little things is what's in alignment for you, and getting really keen and aware. Are you living in alignment in your everyday? Hopefully.
So I typically have strong coffee is my jam. It's like always my start. And then I kind of make an impromptu strong coffee as a second. This is just kind of like my own little at-home cortado. So a double espresso. I use an espresso machine. It's called Bee Powered by Beekeepers Naturals. Yep. Superfood honey, scuba MCT powder, and then just like a splash of unsweetened vanilla almond milk. Mix it all up and love it. So good.
I drink so many things in the morning, like my superfood mushrooms, my, what else I have? My cacao drink. I have obviously my coffee, but I just have it all.
What's your morning routine? Share the wealth.
Okay. Morning routine. It's ever evolving. And which I like about it because it keeps it interesting. So first thing I do, and this is not on a regular basis, I would love to say it is, but I try to meditate in the morning, and I actually do red light therapy on my face during the meditation. I've heard that possibly that is not good as far as like the light takes you to a certain level. I interviewed somebody that was talking about the light and how the red light actually weighs you down.
Really?
I don't know. I'm kind of testing it to see if my meditations are different.
Yeah, I've definitely heard some different trains of thought on that one.
Yeah, so the red light therapy, I do that. And then I do gua sha on my face almost every morning.
What's that?
Which is basically an anti-aging, a natural way to like lift and like lymphatic drainage.
Scrubbing thing?
It's the scraping.
Scraping, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I do that on my face. And then I do Egoscue stretches.
You're just saying all kinds of things I've never heard of.
These are all these things I've learned along the way. So it's posture stretches. I'm big on posture. So it's just stretching and realigning your posture. And then I have my warm lemon water in the morning.
Yeah, what's the morning health cocktail?
So I have the warm water with lemon. And then following that, I'll have my coffee and I'll add in superfood mushrooms. And then...
Love me some mushrooms.
Yes, I know, right?
Yeah.
And then I have my cacao bliss, which is basically a superfood cacao elixir. So I have that. I usually take that to go when I'm leaving for work or whatnot. And then what else do I do in the morning? I do cold showers. I'm mixing it around. It's not in the exact order, but cold showers, not religiously, probably 3 days a week. And then I work out. I'll do anything from, I'll go on a walk outside for about 15 minutes, and it's actually only to get sunlight and fresh air and just to get my lymphatic system moving. And then I'll work out on either a Legree microformer, which I have on my, what that is? And so I have one of those at home. So I'll either do that and then rebounding, or I'll go to the gym, weight train, or I'll go for a long walk, running.
How long would you say about is your morning routine, all these things, if you're doing all these things in one?
Yeah, honestly, I wake up about 5:30 every morning. So I would say relatively, I'm done with everything by 9. So I kind of like leisurely move into things. Wow. So I'm very adamant about my skincare. I love it. It's part of self-care. So that, and of course, movement is key for me. That's like health, vitality, everything. I'm sure you agree. So movement is key. And then obviously, mind, body, soul. So the meditation and just taking time through the stretches, drinking my cacao bliss, like all these things.
She knows.
My morning routine is everything. I'm sure you could agree. A lot of people also do evening routines. I don't have a particular evening routine, to be honest, but my morning routine is solid.
All right. So my audience is probably definitely done hearing about all the things that I do in the morning. It's what I talk about the most. I'm sharing it the most, but it's just the most consistent thing. One of the most consistent things in my life, for my health, my wellness, my productivity, my mental health, my sanity, everything. So please break down, particularly when it comes to what you're putting into your body. I was hearing lemon water. I was hearing functional mushrooms. I was hearing cacao. Please share, why do you put these other things into your body, and why particularly in the morning?
Okay, so I'm all about optimization.
That's why you're here.
I love biohacking.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated because I personally want to be the most healthiest version of myself, and that requires me to be actually healthy. As everybody has heard, health is wealth. I've struggled in certain health issues before, so that was really reinforced. So I just think that health is everything. So I do believe in consuming as close to the ground as possible, clean, organic, grass-fed. I do eat meat. It works for me. I love vegetables. I thrive on vegetables too.
I'm team root vegetables all day.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I just think that like you feel just so different when you eat clean, and also you just feel lighter and you feel more vibrant. And I just think that's just key. And so like these superfood mushrooms, the cacao, it's just, I notice how I feel when I consume it, and it's been a game changer for me. So I just try things for myself, see what works, and, disregard whatever doesn't. I think it's so key to be so in tune with your body. And I've spent my life, as we were talking about before recording, I've spent my life knowing my body and literally mastering my body to a point that I know when I'm a quarter inch off, like literally. So,
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So I just think health is everything. So the things I do is just what feels right to me, and I tweak it. Like I said, like the cold showers, for example. That's not consuming something, but just the action of doing that, it's very much more for your mind. I believe it's strengthening your mind to do something that's hard, that you don't want to do. I don't think anybody wants to jump into a cold bath or a shower, but they know it's going to serve them. And it does. You feel invigorated after. So,
do you ever feel like you're maybe after doing something for so long that you get tired of doing the thing, even though you know in the back of your head that it's serving you, that it has served you? There's science behind so many of these modalities and supplements and good water and everything you were just sharing. Do you ever feel like, what if I just didn't? Does the benefit and the commitment to these benefits, does it ever outweigh your commitment or your time?
So the only thing I could speak to for that, everything I do is because I love it. It feels good, and it's the outcome is outweighing the uncomfortableness, if you want to say. But the one thing that I struggled the most in is meditation, being consistent. And everybody,
a lot of people,
everybody says, every person that I've interviewed on my podcast, the number one thing they say is meditation, key, hands down. And it took me a while to even start a practice, but I have a hard time being consistent. And I actually luckily interviewed somebody that it re-inspired that interest, is Emily Fletcher. She talks about her Ziva meditation method. I don't know if you heard about it, but I'm ready to start that so I could get, re-inspired to start a practice again. But that's my hardest thing. And everybody says the benefits are just incredible, right? So
I've struggled with meditation over the years. It's definitely one of those things that, in my personal development journey has been a common denominator from a lot of people that I look up to, that I read, that I listen to. And when I began to apply it, it was kind of like forcing something. I think I'm supposed to be just this Zen guy, like chilling hard, not a care in the world. But then lo and behold, I sit down and it's thought after thought after thought. And then you realize, yeah, Chase, that's what meditation actually is.
Right.
But once I kind of began to take it and make it my own, which I'm hearing you do a lot of that in your practices as well, it became a lot more consistent. And so for me, I'm a walking meditator. And for me, I'm curious if you kind of have the same experience. It's less of me trying to do this thing that I heard is good for me, that I heard is good for my wellness, my health, my mental health, whatever, and trying to force myself into that model, but taking it, like the infrastructure of it, and just applying it. Like, oh, I can do this, but in a different way. I can do it in my way and keep doing it.
I love that you share that, Chase, because I remember my exact experience with that. And I remember, because so many people, and I know everybody can relate to this, we go on a walk, let's say, but we take our phone, right? Imagine if you set that phone down and you just listen to nature and you just be with yourself. It is transformative. And I had experience with that opened my eyes to doing that more often. I love being in nature. That's where I feel most connected to myself. So you talk about walking meditation. I remember okay, I had my dog Chance at the time, and we were going for a walk. And I'm like, I'm just going to leave my phone at home. And generally I listen to things. I listen, prepping for a podcast, whatever it may be. I multitask
the development. Like, I'm going to listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook.
Which is good. Yeah. But also, I think there's so much benefit in putting your phone away and just being and just letting your mind go where it goes. And my experience of that was profound because I was battling with this one idea of this program I wanted to start. And initially, I was going to start a program on mastering your body because that's something that I've spent my life doing and something I know well and I can speak well to. But I wasn't feeling this drive or pull towards it. So I was battling that idea. And then during that walking meditation, I had like a download that said, no, this is exactly what you could speak to right now. And this is who you could serve. And so that was like done and done. I needed that clarity, and it wouldn't have happened if I brought my phone. Mm-hmm. So yes, I agree. Like walking meditation, I think it's key that people find, and this goes again for morning routine, find what works for you. Mm-hmm. Like know yourself so well that you are so in tune with what feels good for you, what benefits you, what drives you forward, ever forward.
Hey, yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
When you're going about these external modalities, I think a lot of us start with things that we think or know or hope that are going to help change us physically, externally, whether that's get in shape, lose weight, gain weight, skin health, whatever it might be. But oftentimes, in my experience, there's this cascade of other benefits that come that I wasn't expecting, such as things maybe I can measure, like maybe my heart rate's going down, maybe my stress levels are going down, maybe I'm falling to sleep faster, I'm less reactive to other people and less hostile, or I'm slower to react and, I can better respond. Just my mental, emotional states all kind of rise to the top. I'm like, shit, where did this come from? What's going on there? In your experience, have you embarked upon something to start with a physical change and you're finding so many other maybe mental, emotional, spiritual benefits along the way?
It's a good question. I think there always is. Like little do we know? Yeah, I think that some things don't reveal itself till later. But I feel like when you work on your body, you're, moving your body in some form, weight training, whatever it may be, I believe confidence comes with that naturally. It's a byproduct of it. And so I don't think a lot of people think when they work out, this is to improve my confidence. But I think that's just something that inevitably would happen, So I think I've just noticed in the things I do, it's like you'd be surprised what comes out of it. There's always something to be gained from it that you just didn't even think of. Yeah.
How do you translate that to others? I know this is a big part of your world as well, and the content that you create and how you work with individuals. How do you go from experiencing these things, the physical, mental, emotional, to translating them and delivering them for other people to benefit as well?
Well, if I were to answer that, if I hear your question correctly, that I believe very much of what you do in your life is all about being accountable and, keeping your word to yourself and your standards. I have really high standards for myself. And let me kind of lay this out. It is not about perfectionism.
Yeah.
So my standards are, I want to be healthy. I want to feel good. I want to look good, to be honest. And I don't think that's bad. I just want to feel my optimum self. So the standards I have for myself is very much backed by the actions I take, the habits, the rituals I do. And so I just think when it comes down to, applying that to your life is setting yourself up for the standard you set for yourself. That's personally what I think, is that habits are what builds your life, and ultimately you will become your habits. I think it's very much like I always say, I've been working out for so long. It's not something I do. It's a part of me. It's a lifestyle. It's not something separate. So
what if the person listening right now doesn't have clarity on their standard, or doesn't think maybe they're worthy of a standard? How can they implement something to develop a standard?
I love that question. So first is awareness. Self-awareness is key. That's the foundation of everything. If you don't see where you're at, you won't know where to go. I think it was Preston Smiles that said, you can't intervene in a world you cannot see. So So if you
He's
don't,
always got some great
it drops wisdom. Yeah, I love it. So I think self-awareness is the key before anything. So you need to know, like, how do I feel right now? Where do I want to go? Like, what is wrong? What's limiting me? Like, what are my beliefs? All these things. You need that awareness. Like, where am I at? So you can see where you want to go. So I lost track of my thought. Oh, clarity. So self-awareness. And then I think it's really evaluating and reflecting on your values. I think knowing your values, I don't think a lot of people do this exercise. It's talked about, but I don't think many people have actually sat down, gotten quiet, silent, journaled, and asked themselves
what thing.
Yeah.
Especially this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's so much noise around us. So we could get so distracted, and we could also, this is one thing that I really much relate to when I was younger, is like I would form my values based on other people's,
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, I started dating really young. I started dating when I was 11, but I had a serious boyfriend when I was 13 to 23.
Wow.
So 10 years I had a boyfriend, and he was 3 years older. So imagine I'm 13, he's 16. Mm-hmm. That's quite an age difference. So I very much formed into like liking what he liked. And again,
we're so malleable at that age.
Yeah. So, and I think that's common when you're dating somebody, you kind of start to like mold into them, and especially when you're young. So I did that very much. And so for a long time, I didn't know what I valued. I had an idea, right? Like, I value honesty, integrity, and all these things. But the one key component is, are you living your values? Like, are you being the person that like stands for those values? Are you like actually practicing that in your daily life? And so I think that's really key, is getting clarity, as you need to know what you value, because that's going to be your GPS to lead you in your life, to, propel you forward and do the actions you do, meet the people you meet, and form the relationships you form because of your values. So that's a great way to gain clarity.
That makes me think, I can definitely relate to that. So much of my life growing up, and a lot of these things I still keep near and dear to me, the infrastructure of my nature and nurture, of who I hung out with, the belief systems and rules of my family and my parents. Grew up in the Bible Belt, so Southern Baptist, went to a Christian private school, and you kind of reach an age where you're like, wait a minute, am I in alignment with these things? They might be serving me in terms of, I think I'm a good person. I'm not really getting into trouble. I'm not getting arrested. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm getting a job, getting a promotion. I'm, air quote here, happy by everybody else's standards. But if you really kind of take it in reverse, instead of looking at values first and then lifestyle, what if you look at your lifestyle and just dissect the values that you see in it, and how do you feel about them?
Exactly.
And that was a big, big aha moment for me. Hell, like just 2 years ago, I really felt like at 35, I started living for myself for the first time ever. And it was hard.
It's eye-opening, right?
It is. It's still eye-opening. And why it was so difficult, at least for me, was it was like I needed to grieve this past identity, and I needed to really, really give myself permission to let go of these things that, while they served me up to this point, I don't have to keep them with me if I don't want.
Oh, I love what you just said there. So there's a couple things that I'm going to pull out of that. So alignment to me is a word that I really gravitate towards, is living fully aligned. Like, is what you say you want to become, are you being that in the world today? Like, is that aligned? And I think the only way you could live a aligned life is really knowing like what you truly value. What are your beliefs? What are the things holding you back? And are you saying yes to the right things and no to the wrong things? Like,
just pausing.
What's that?
Even just pausing.
Yes.
Just like, do I need to give this a yes or a no right now? Like, it's okay. This is me talking to myself. I think it's like, it's okay to just sit and be with it for a little bit. It's okay to not immediately say yes or immediately no, because why are we probably doing that? Based on old belief systems, old thought processes.
Yeah. And the other thing you touched on is the acceptance and grieving the past version of you. I don't think
a tricky one.
Yes. I think grieving is such an important topic. And I've gone really heavy on this on my podcast because I think it's something that nobody wants to do, right? You're going into like the trenches of all the ugly stuff, right? So grieving is a great process to fully release everything that has been stored up in you, all these beliefs and this hate and the stories you tell yourself, is like letting it just like breathing out, exhaling all that from you. I think that's an important process. But also I think the other end of that is accepting all that you are, the totality of everything that has brought you here, the good, the bad, the ugly, the mistakes, whatever, is literally just saying, I accept that this is my path. This is who made me who I am today. But that doesn't mean tomorrow I have to be her or him. We always have a choice. So I think, the most powerful thing we have is choice. And so that I believe personally that self-acceptance is the pathway to self-love. So accepting everything, all those, the past stories, the past lies, everything we used to tell ourselves, so we could now move into who we want to be. So
I think that's what we're all after, whether we realize it or not. We kind of started off the conversation talking about biohacks, little wellness tips, the physical self. I think all of us, I know myself included, start there. I think fitness is the best gateway drug to all of the mental, emotional, spiritual benefits that come if you have a solid why and commit and keep the commitments to yourself and just stay adherent for any period of time. You will transform externally and internally. And then as we do, we're like, wait a minute, this just feels right. This feels like home. Again, I don't know if I'm speaking for myself, but I, for the first time in ever, feel like I am working, living, acting out of a place of like heart-centered home.
Speaking my love language, no, I think that's all what it's about, is really just returning home to ourselves. And I was, before we press record, I was talking about like, I feel like my journey has been self-discovery and self-love. Like, how could I love myself, truly love myself, like authentically, wholeheartedly say, I love myself. Look in the mirror and say, like, you are a beautiful human being. Look how far you come.
Girl, you're killing it.
No, it's yeah, like, exactly. High five.
Look at you. Look at me.
No, but that's not conceitive or anything. That's actually like, that's, I think, what we should all get to. And I've struggled with self-love and self-worth. I thought I loved myself. I thought I was confident, and all these things. But when I realized that wasn't the truth, it's like to get to the path of really, truly accepting myself and loving the journey that has brought me here. Like, I always look at, and I'm sure you agree with this, I'm all about like life teaches us so many lessons, and it will keep showing up until we learn the darn lesson, and it'll get louder and louder until we learn it. And I feel that's what our path is how could we continue to evolve ever forward and really just become the best we could possibly be, but authentically us and deeply in alignment. So
how would you define self-love right here, right now? Has your definition, has your interpretation, has your practice of self-love changed enough to where maybe you do have a different definition now? How would you kind of describe that? You know what,
lately, one of the things I've been switching to, because self-love is talked about so often, obviously it's a very cliche word, but that doesn't take away from the importance of it, because I think that's ultimately what it is. But what I've been leaning a little bit more on is self-acceptance.
Interesting, okay.
And the reason being is I believe so many people could say they love themselves, but have they really accepted their past, the totality of everything that they are? And I think that when you fully accept yourself, that the byproduct is self-love. And so, and I do believe that, we're ever evolving. We're always going to be hit, upside the head and knocked to the ground. But knowing that with that, we're able to rise no matter what, because we have the will, we know we're strong enough to overcome anything. And I've been hit down a lot, as everybody. And it's like, but we're still here. Thank God if we're still here, and I just think that when it comes to self-love, the self-acceptance piece, I think, is a lot that's missing. And that radical responsibility and also the compassion for ourselves, forgiveness for ourselves. Like these are the components that I think really stack up to self-love is that, being able to be vulnerable, being able to be honest with yourself, most importantly, but honest with others and not fearful to be like, I think we all have a fear of being judged. That's just human nature, but to not hide behind these masks so that we're not seen for who we are. I think there's such a beautiful thing to see somebody be vulnerable. I think it's beautiful personally. And so I think, the pathway to self-love is for self-acceptance. I think that takes work. I think it's forgiveness. I think it's being compassionate for ourselves. I think it's also, learning to receive. I think a lot of people have a hard time receiving. I've kind of battled with that myself. And we have to ask ourselves, like, why are we struggling to receive from others? And, I think that, people that give compliments, for example, this was pointed out to me, and I thought this was really eye-opening for myself. I was paid a compliment. Somebody, I was doing this speaking thing. He's like, you speak really well, but don't read the paper, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and you look well, whatever. And he says, like, you're beautiful and this. And I kind of shut down his compliment. And the reason being is because he complimented my looks. And that's one thing that I don't want to be seen for that. Like I was trying to avoid that. And so I kind of shut it down. I did say thank you, but I kind of pushed it aside. He's like, when somebody pays you a compliment, you should be able to receive it because, maybe somebody is stepping really in an uncomfortable space to compliment you and that feels good to them, but you kind of like pushed it aside. And that was eye-opening to me. So I love when people, if you pay somebody a compliment, just say, thank you, I received that.
Yeah.
And see how different that changes when you start to step in that energy, like to naturally be like, I received that. You're taking it in and you're like, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I first heard that and began to apply it to my life from Sean Stevenson from the Model Health Show. Yeah. And I would always hear him say that on his show. And even when I met him years ago for the first time in person, and he said it, and it just kind of stuck with me of like, that's different. And actually, this came up again, I think maybe a week or two ago. I had another guest here, and we were talking about that, of just think about it visually. Think about, we were talking about, imagine if you just had this visual interpretation of, instead of like, I'm going to pay you a compliment versus I'm actually going to give you a tangible gift. And receiving it is actually like taking it, bringing it into your home. It's like if I show up at your doorstep and I say, Erica, here. And you say, cool, thank you. And that's as far as we go. And the gift just stays at your doorstep. You go back inside. It's technically there. You got it. It's yours to do what you want with it. But imagine if you received that gift. It's like bringing that and the person into your home. That is completely different. That is so much more intimate and real and more of an exchange. And that's such a good point to kind of accent what you were saying from this other guy of like, it's sometimes the other person just kind of pushing their boundaries to pay that compliment and to even say something at all. And if it doesn't cross that threshold, it's just kind of like, I brought you this and you just left it at your doorstep.
Yeah. And it goes kind of back to like this human connection. That's all what we want. And I think when you're able to receive and give, again, giving is just as important, but it's that like human interaction, right? That really authentic connection with somebody is
it's a flow. It's this exchange.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so important. Yeah.
So why was it so difficult for you to accept this physical compliment? Okay. I know this is something you've been kind of working on.
Yeah, well, it's something actually I'm past now, to be honest. Again, all the self-work I've done, it's finally paid off. But so as I was talking about, a lot of people don't know that only like my friends really know this, but I've been doing
We love an exclusive here.
Yeah,
right,
so I've been doing something called fit modeling, which is a live mannequin for clothing manufacturers. So let me just tell you what that is. So basically, clothing is fit on my body and then mass produced for every size. So my body needs to stay within a 1/4 inch at all times. So
that is a feat. Wow.
Especially for women. Yes. And the reason being specifically because I fit a lot of denim. So a lot of the jeans out there, it was fit on my body. So
what are you wearing? Size Erica?
I wear size 27. So if that's what you're asking, so I'm a size 27, so I've been doing this for so long and I kind of fell into it, but I don't need to get in the whole story of that, but I just fell into it, did really well. And, I've been consistently doing it full time for a long time. And only during the pandemic, actually, I finally was like, I've been trying to get out of it for a long time, figure out my passion, purpose, and I finally got clarity of what that was. Thank God, because I was on the pursuit for so long. But so for a long time, I was always trying to figure out what this was that I'm meant to do. What is my purpose? That's the question we all ask ourselves. But
what do I want from my life, and what do I value?
Yeah, because
everybody else wants from me and what they value.
Absolutely. And so I don't find much purpose into fitting clothes, and it's great. It's amazing. I could say I love it. And I'm very thankful I'm able to do it and all the clients I have and all that. But I very much, since I was in high school, if not even younger, was seen for a body. And then I happened to go into a career that's literally chop off my head. I'm just used for my body.
Just a body.
I'm just a body.
Wow.
Yes, I'm an expert in what I do and I provide feedback and I'm very knowledgeable and all that stuff. I'm using my brain. It's not brainless, but yeah, it's because I was so seen for my body for so long, even from like the men that liked me. It was always like the looks and the body, yada, yada. And great. I'm not like taking that for granted. I'm very thankful and I very much appreciate it now. Like I take good care of my body. I love being fit. I love taking care of my body. So it's not a bad thing. And I'm not like tooting my own horn, but how it affected me and what drove me into finding my purpose was really, what can I use like up here? What am I meant to serve onto the world? And luckily I discovered it. But yeah, that's why I kind of like shoved those compliments away because I was trying to move out of like being seen for something else. And again, the self-work is not needing to have that external validation, like, oh, I'm worth this to this person because they see me as this. And that's a bad way to think of it. And I was thinking it for a long time. Like I would see all these successful people. I'm like, I want that. But I think really when it comes down to it, we have to figure out what's right for us. Internally, like what's driving you internally, not from external sources, and to feel love and worthy and all that. So
can you like really walk us through, because I've been there and I know the person listening is there, has been there, will be there. This is something I think everyone will go through, where you are recognized by even just one other person, but it's probably a prominent person in your life, a parent, a sibling, a boss, or a group of people. You are that guy. You are this girl. Whether we know you as this person who can do a very specific task, or maybe they deem something as like a natural talent. And you're like, stop. This is just, I'm sorry I was born this way. Like maybe I'm just naturally good at this or excel in this. How can we really make the shift? I think for one of two ways. We have to do it for ourselves. And then we also have to do it in a way that's going to finally land with other people and translate so that we can, if that's what we want, to get them to see us for who we see ourselves as.
If I were to say, I think first it comes down to really connecting with yourself. Like what do you stand for? Like, I actually wrote a post today and it was very much about this is like, it's not about what you do for a living. It's very much like, how do you see yourself as a person? And so I think you need to first get connected with that. And then I think people will see you as that. So I think it really starts internally first and you embodying that into your life. And so people will see you as so much more than just a podcast or so much more than a fitness trainer or whatever it may be. So I think it's really like, are you embodying, so much of what you value, what you believe, what you preach? Like, are you living that in your everyday?
Go deeper there for me, please. Embodiment is such a key word. So what does embodiment of these ideas, these practices really look and feel like? Because it's more than just awareness is absolutely right. And it's these concepts you're talking about, but we have to consistently embody them.
Yeah. My thought on this is you need to be doing what you love and like seeing yourself come alive in those experiences. I recently traveled by myself to Croatia.
Oh,
I love traveling by
solo
myself.
travel is amazing.
I think everybody should do it.
Experience.
If you want to get more connected to yourself, travel solo and travel internationally, because you're going somewhere
Drop yourself in the middle where you've never been and don't speak the language.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you agree with that. I think it's one of the key things of really, really getting close to yourself again, you know, connecting deeper within. And so my boyfriend's away on a work trip, and I just decided I was going somewhere. I went to a biohacking event, and then I traveled to Croatia from there alone. And I did what I love about this is I get all giddy about this because this is my jam.
Yeah, I want to hear all about it.
So when you travel alone, you get to do what you want when you want. Like everything is to be in alignment with what you feel like doing and what you feel aligned to do. And
even your own comfort level, like
everything.
You're not getting pressure to maybe go explore, do something that you don't want to. That might, definitely get out of your comfort zone a little bit. But, that's a whole other level that I think you might not realize. Like even pushing your own boundaries while you're pushing your own boundary is totally up to you.
Absolutely. So I'm a adventure junkie, and I realize I'm an extreme adventure junkie. All right. So one of the things I did was canoeing, which is basically like when you're rappelling down walls, you're scrimmaging.
Yeah, there we go.
Through water, you're floating along, and you're doing all these adventurous things and fun adrenaline junkie things. Yeah. Well, I mean, with a crew, of course, but not. I was traveling alone, but I literally came alive, like utter joy, like a kid, like playing out in nature. And so
that's what it is. You're going back to play, you're being a kid again.
100%. So when you talk about like, how do you embody like what you value, or embody the authentic version of you, is really doing the things you love and knowing, like you have to get really clear on what do you love, what makes you come alive. And I know for me, as we talked about, nature is very key, adventure, new experiences, going somewhere I've never been, playing, being playful, meeting people that are inspiring and motivating, all these things. So you have to get clear on really what you love. Like I think that's the time you need to start journaling, and then make a plan to fit it in your schedule, because we could get so sidetracked and get so busy we won't fit it in.
You got to date yourself. I do this all the time. I have moments all the time with myself. It could just literally be a moment at home, or, if I'm done with work early and May's not home, or if she's out of town, I'm out of town, I'll have a whole ass day to myself. I'll take myself out for coffee, lunch. I'll go walk around and explore and just do me with me.
You gotta love yourself when you're by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Super key.
If you can't have a good time with yourself, I think, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's lean into that. There is a reason or reasons why.
I love that you say that, and I think that's important for anybody here right now. Is it like there was a lot of people during the pandemic that, especially extroverts, that were having a hard time being alone, stuck inside, and I get that, and that's totally acceptable. Like you are who you are. But I do think that if you are uncomfortable being alone, question that. Like get curious why, and go deep. Like be more alone. Get more quiet with yourself, and that will uncover why you feel that way. Like what are you missing, or what are you attached to? So
how do you do this type of work in your relationship? How do you prioritize yourself and make this commitment to yourself and show up for this self-love and be in a relationship? How do you navigate that? How do you communicate that? What does that look like, if you'd be willing to share?
Such a great question. I think that's such a great question. So luckily, we both have separate pursuits. We definitely, we both have certain things we're pursuing that we're working on. I think that's super important when you're in a relationship or a marriage or whatever, is have something separate from each other, something you love that's uniquely yours.
Ditto, like times 100.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that work together these days, a lot of couples, but I think you still, even if you do that, that's okay. But I do think you need to find something that's uniquely yours, that you could cherish, that you could like mold and make it your own, So that's one thing for my significant other and I, is we have separate things that we're working hard at. Also, I have my morning routine. He has his. Both of them are totally different. And what else? I think that also I think it's just really knowing like what you love and making time for it. But also, again, key is making time for each other. I really believe in date night. You're married. And so like, I'm sure you agree, like date night is important. Like you still need to date your significant other. So I think that it's so important to make time for yourself. I do think you need to kind of have that little separation that you nurture what you love. So if you're not doing that, I think that's something that you need to start doing personally.
What is one thing maybe that you're working on the most, or maybe is the newest area of your self-love journey? And what is one area that you hope, blanket statement here, most people are working on right here, right now?
Okay, so to answer the first part of your question, what am I working most on self-love or self-development, I'll say. So the hardest thing for me, and I kind of mentioned this, is speaking.
Interesting.
Yes.
We've been doing great so far.
So let me just share this. I'll backtrack a little bit if you don't mind. So I had a learning disability when I was younger. It was discovered, I believe, I'm not positive, but let's say 11, and it was auditory memory disorder. So basically that means whenever I hear something, it's harder for me to retain. I wasn't good at English. English is my first language. Go figure.
Wow.
But it was just the memory. I had bad short-term memory. So my biggest struggle, and this also, oh gosh, I could go into so many different ways. But this showed up in a lot of my relationships too. Like my 10-year relationship, he emotionally abused me and was very much making me feel stupid. So that reinforced my learning disability about feeling I was stupid. And then luckily the next relationship that was about 5 years, a very loving relationship, luckily he made it like cute. Like my little things, I would say, my little unique things, I would say, he made it cute. So at least, it was like uniquely what I do, if you want to say. But the speaking thing, as I fast forward a little bit more in my life, I remember still holding on to this limiting belief, like I can't speak well, I'm stupid, I'm just not smart enough, I can't retain, like all these stories I would tell myself until I really kind of unraveled all these stories. I'm like, you know what? Obviously, I rewrote those stories, but I had to reinforce it. Like you could say all day long, okay, I'm smart, but if you don't reinforce that and back it with something, it's kind of like an affirmation.
Yeah. Knowing without doing is the same thing as not knowing.
Exactly. So what I would do, and this is when I started my podcast, Passion, Love, Pursuit. So I decided, this was on my deep personal development journey. Let's say it was, I don't know, like 4 years ago at this point, guessing. I was like, okay, I'm going to start a podcast. Just okay, why not? I like this stuff.
One hell of a way to get through a fear or challenge of speaking.
So that was one of my core reasons. Besides, I love personal development. I just want to continue to grow and learn. That's my passion.
You were probably already a consumer of them at that point.
I was, and that's what inspired me to do it. So I also, on not really consciously thinking of it, but I know definitely in my heart, part of the reason was to prove that I basically do the hard thing so you could grow through it, And so is basically like, okay. And I remember when I was first doing my podcast, I wouldn't do video because I'm like, I need to see the paper in front of me. I need to read it because I can't remember it.
To see this probably.
Yeah. And so I did really, I tippy-toed into it somewhat, but I kept doing it. And I kept getting better and better. And luckily, I feel I'm pretty good at interviewing and I don't need a paper in front of me. So I just think that I firmly believe that we should always step into what's uncomfortable because on the other side is always growth. And so learning to, speak better and have that confidence that I can do this and I can speak well. Yeah, I'll forget things. Trust me, it happens. Sometimes I can't connect one thing, But you know what? I think that we all have our unique struggles, and I think that if you just constantly choose to grow through it, then we could continue to evolve and become better at it.
And what about for somebody else right now? Or what are you here we are midway through 2022. What are you hoping that the majority of people out there are working on right now?
So I think alignment is one of the big things I'm leaning on right now is really, are you the person you want to become? Is that in alignment with who you are being in the world today? And I think,
are you embodying it?
Are you embodying it? Because I think so many of us are so disconnected because we have so many things thrown at us. And so it's so easy to be scrolling on social media, kind of idolizing people that are like being a podcaster. You know how many podcasters there are? So
2.6 million.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. But I don't know how many active.
400,000.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah. But it drops far. You look at that big daunting number.
Oh gosh, yes.
Last I checked, it was like 2.6 million total shows. This is Apple Podcasts. But then we look at live or active, meaning have they put out at least one new episode in the last 90 days? That number goes from 2.6 million to 400,000.
Yes, and probably drops more like the consistency and everything. Yeah. So it's really easy to...
I nerd out on the pod stats, sorry.
Yeah, as you should, of course. And so it's very easy to look at other people and, think, oh, I want to be like her or him. And then you get so disconnected from actually what's true to you. And so I think that what people should work on today is really finding what's in alignment and true to them. And really not, and accepting that. Like, it's okay if you, I'm trying to think the first thing that comes to my mind. I remember having this conversation with a friend and he's like, I do want to date somebody that I'm attracted to. Like, I like their looks. That's just how I feel. I'm like, that's okay.
That's okay.
And no one should judge you about that. If anything, I agree. You should be attracted to your partner, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just the little things is what's in alignment for you. And getting really keen and aware, are you living in alignment in your everyday? Hopefully.
And to go back to your first response about what you're working on, it is so true. And it's the whole reason why I'm here right now, why we are here right now, the choice to turn and face the difficult thing. I would quite literally not be here doing what I'm doing had I not had my world kind of like rocked, and by not dealing with this traumatic event in my life, but then choosing to literally turn and face the thing that I've been running from for 12, 13 years at that time, and to not only just like sit and be with it, but to embody it.
Yeah.
Every time that I used to think of these words, ever forward, would break me down because it was just this reminder of what my dad used to say and how he used to live. And then it would just make me think of how sad I was that he was gone. And then I would get angry. And then it was just this vicious cycle that quite literally tore me up. And so when I chose to stop accepting that as who I am and stop accepting that that's how that was going to run my life, and I ran towards it, I embodied it. Now, quite literally, it's on my arm. It's the show. It's everything that I do, and so much of what I do, and so much of what my brother does, and it has just imprinted on my family in such unique ways. But we only have been able to grow from it by turning and running towards it.
Absolutely. As they say, if I could remember this quote, you must be willing to go in the dark so you can reveal the light, something like that. Like there's always a contrast. So with dark, there's light. And if we suppress, our dark side, we're suppressing as well our light side. So I think that's so a great example is like, you must be willing to go, it's very hard, and it's hard to explain this to people, I think, to be willing to go towards the pain, be willing to say yes to what's uncomfortable. I feel I live my life this way now is I always say yes to what's uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Because I choose growth regardless. Like I want to grow. I want to learn lessons. I want to learn lessons the least painful way. But, when you say something uncomfortable, it's like we could withstand more things than we think we can. So.
Oh yeah. So true. Well, now I would invite you to run towards those two words with me again. Yeah. So, ever forward. When you hear those words, what does that mean to you? How do you live a life ever forward?
I love this question because I believe I live this in my everyday. Ever forward to me means living with intention, passion, purpose, to be very conscious in the decisions you make. I like to say being conscious with your yeses and conscious with your nos, because everything you say yes to is either going to drive you forward or it's going to pull you back. And so you have to be in alignment with, is that what I feel that's right for me? And choosing, that whatever you say yes to, that's you're connected deeply with your true, authentic self. Yeah. Yes. And also, I just think that ever forward is also, again, as I spoke about, is the path of growth. And so for me, it's always about seeking personal evolution and being really grounded in my truth and my existence in the world. So ever forward, I love it. That's how I live my life.
I love that interpretation. Excuse me. I love that interpretation. I love all of my guest interpretation. And so it's a great way for me to kind of just bring it back home to the theme of the show, but it truly does serve me, because it's with every question that I ask, that question that I ask, in a way, it's another way that I'm turning and facing that. And so like, it's a choice that I'm making to utter it every time that I'm on the show, and to invite to bring you into my world a little bit, and to make it a little bit more bearable. And so that I can see that it's not just me living in the darkness, but rather there's a way to share this. There's a way to incorporate it into my life and invite others along the way as well. So thank you.
Beautiful. So how do you live your life ever forward? I'm sure you've explained this many times, but let's just pull it out of you again.
No, great question. And, I used to say that it was still for somebody else. To me, living ever forward was just being all these versions of myself that I thought I had to be, because I had been them for so long. The older brother, the staff sergeant, the scholar, the boss, like all these versions that I was just doing, being, thinking, because everybody else saw me as that. And also just leading with this message of just kind of trying to carry this message with me of, because it's a good thing, because it's a good honor, right? But really for me, last couple of years, it's been just, you can be present, you can be very, very still. And in that, you can learn way more about yourself and who you want to be and who you truly are. I'm talking to myself here. Yeah. And then carry that with you. So instead of always trying to just push forward and carry these preconceived notions about myself and just all these burdens, real or in my head, I actually can do so much more. I can go so much more forward by just shedding all these other things that don't serve me. And then, like, for me, that is the best way I think I could ever honor the legacy of my father and honor what he set out for us. And at the same time, just getting closer and closer to my truth.
Beautiful. And I think that's kind of like the overarching message over this whole podcast is like, how could we really live in alignment in our authentic truth of who we are and what we're living for, what's our passion and purpose that we're serving onto the world as well.
Yeah.
True. So yeah, I love that.
Well, Erica, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to have all of your information, of course, down in the show notes and video notes for everybody, but where can they go to connect with you, to learn more about you, hang out with you? Where are you in the world?
I'm mostly on Instagram. So Erica Lippy on Instagram. Also, ericalippy.com to find out like resources and everything I'm doing.
And the podcast.
And the podcast, of course. I forgot about that. Yes, my podcast, Passion, Love, Pursuit. I interview amazing people as yourself, which is coming on.
Coming soon.
I cannot wait. But yeah, incredible guests. It's all about, personal growth, health, wellness, everything under the sun, really, to become our best, most authentic version of ourselves. So
love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
All
Tune
good.
in, everybody. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.